Well, police are warning parents to look through their kids' Halloween haul after a needle was found in a piece of candy. That story, and
we've been hearing from people that usually they stretch their trips to the food bank a little bit further.
Food banks are not designed to support this type of rapid increase in such a short period of time.
A new national report outlines how much strain is on food banks and on the people using them.
Remember these? The health authority says that with flu season just around the corner and lots of respiratory illnesses already on the go, it's time to put them back on.
Clinic areas, emergency departments, up on the medical wards, anywhere where patients and clients are receiving care.
Coming up on Here and Now.
We haven't been heard, but now we're going to be heard.
We deserve fair airfare out of Labrador West.
Residents fed up over the steep cost of flights came together in Wabush to air their concerns.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. A man from St. Anthony accused of murdering his wife is back in court in Corner Brook. Dean Penny's preliminary inquiry started today in provincial court. Penny is accused of murdering his estranged wife, Jennifer Hillier Penny. Her disappearance was deemed suspicious in December 2016. 7 years later, police arrested and charged Penny with first-degree murder. There's a publication ban in place that prevents the media from revealing any details or identifying witnesses who may testify. The hearing is expected to take 2 weeks. An inmate is accused of assaulting 2 female correctional officers at the Water Street lockup in St. John's. According to the RNC, it happened almost 3 weeks ago. Police say one of the correctional officers suffered serious injuries and was treated in hospital. The other officer had minor injuries and did not require medical treatment. The 37-year-old inmate was arrested and charged with assault causing bodily harm and assault. Well, police are warning parents to double-check their children's Halloween candy after a needle was found lodged inside a piece of licorice over the weekend. The candy came from a trunk or treat event hosted at an A&W in Bay Roberts on Saturday. Police say anyone who was there should carefully inspect their candy. This is the second warning about dangerous candy in the Conception Bay North area. Police say a child became very sick after a trunk or treat event over a week ago in North River. The RCMP is recommending families toss all candy from that event, although police don't expect foul play in that case. More people than ever are leaning on food banks to survive. 2 million visits per month in March set a new Canadian record of reliance. And that figure comes from a just-released report from Food Banks Canada. But as Here and Now's Heather Gillis reports, that's not the only troubling trend.
Fresh moose stew, a welcome addition to food hampers at the Bridges to Hope Food Bank in St. John's. Demand here is up. Bridges to Hope fed about 13,000 people last year. This year on track to help 30% more. It's forcing Executive Director Leslie Burgess to cut back on some hamper items.
In the past, an individual person might get a full box of cereal, and now that's been cut back to a 4-cup serving.
Coffee is on the chopping block too. They once gave out a full cup. Now it's down to 3/4 of one. Meanwhile, here at the St. Vincent de Paul Food Bank in Carbonear, a rural town about 100 kilometers from St. John's, there's another barrier for food bank clients.
For a lot of people, they either don't have transportation or they have a limited budget for gas and stuff, especially in an area with no public transportation. So we've been hearing from people that usually they stretch their trips to the food bank a little bit further.
And it's all donated.
It's not just Newfoundland and Labrador seeing increased need. Demand is also surging at the Pictou County Food Bank 150 kilometers away from Halifax. Coordinator Lisa Leclerc says they're cutting back too.
We're not buying juice anymore. We're not buying canned turkey, ham. We do buy canned tuna.
According to Food Banks Canada's 2024 hunger count, food bank visits across the country are up. 2 million people in Canada went to a food bank this March. That's up 6% over last March. And Richard Matern says it's nearly double the amount of people that went to a food bank 5 years ago.
So food banks are not designed to support this type of rapid increase in such a short period of time. And as a result, what we're seeing is many are buckling under the strain.
Meanwhile, staff at food banks in Newfoundland and Labrador and Nova Scotia are bracing for the colder months ahead as heating bills stretch budgets and demand rises even further. They're calling on the federal government for help fast.
We have joined Food Banks Canada actually in their call for a groceries and essentials benefit. So that is basically a top up to the GST credit that would provide some immediate relief to the folks who need it the most.
Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, it's time to start wearing masks again at healthcare facilities, according to the province's health authority. As of tomorrow, visitors and staff at hospitals and long-term care centres will be required to mask up. Here Now's Mark Quinn reports.
Health officials say it will be mandatory to wear one of these if you visit a healthcare facility like this one as of tomorrow morning. They say it will be mandatory for staff, for patients, and for visitors, starting tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
The whole purpose of this required mask policy is to try to get ahead of the big RSV, influenza, and likely continued COVID surge in the later fall.
But Bridger says the mask requirement is also a response to an increase in respiratory illnesses that are already happening.
There are many people in the community with COVID-19 again, so COVID-19's out there. We haven't seen too much influenza activity yet, but I expect that's going to start very soon. There's still pertussis out there. The last time we spoke was about pertussis, and that's been an ongoing issue in our province. There are lots and lots of people presenting with Mycoplasma pneumonia, which is a bacterial infection that's usually seen in school-age children. So we've been seeing more pneumonias earlier in the season than we had before.
Bridger said mycoplasma pneumonia, sometimes called walking pneumonia, is often less debilitating than the more common forms of bacterial pneumonia, but can become serious. She has advice for parents who suspect their child might have pneumonia.
The thing to do would be to see a primary health care provider. If your child is really sick, having trouble breathing, then to go to the nearest emergency department. Because it's a bacterial pneumonia, there are some antibiotics that can be used to treat it.
Long-term care residents and admitted patients won't be required to mask, but staff, visitors, and anyone in waiting areas or clinical areas will. Bridger said the mask policy is expected to be in place until at least March 2025. This is the first province-wide mask mandate since February. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, Jenny Brake has been elected chief of the Halibut First Nation, the first woman to take the role. The young band, one of Canada's largest, concluded its week-long council election on Friday. With over 2,800 votes, Brake beat her nearest competitor, Byron Alexander, by over 1,000 votes. 8 other band councillors were also elected, 5 by acclamation. A by-election in the ward of St. George's will happen at a later date. Brake has already served as chief on an interim basis for the past year. Well, people in Labrador West are expressing frustration over the cost to fly. Airfares in Labrador have jumped by more than 30% in the last 5 years. We brought you that story last week, but over the weekend, about 100 people protested that. Here Now's Daryl Din was there.
Labrador deserves better! Labrador deserves better!
Ina Rumbold here, Wabush Airport, Labrador. Standing up for the people of Labrador for better air access and better pricing and just better availability overall. We need it. We deserve it. We're going to fight for it. We want it. And now we have the power in numbers. So get ready because there's more coming. Actually, what prompted me to start this was because we went through our own personal situation. And I was aware of people in over the years going through struggles as well, trying to get in and out of here, emergencies and whatnot. But Then when it hit myself, it hit me hard. It hit our family hard. And you know, there's so many more stories that's worse than ours. There's been hundreds of people that messaged me, that told me their story. They shared it on the Facebook page as well. And you know, the sad thing is, we haven't been heard, but now we're going to be heard. We're going to be heard. We're not backing down. I'm not backing down. It shows that nobody here is going to back down now. I really think that now I think we can make a change.
Well, I can speak on behalf of many of our seniors. Sometimes trying to get a senior out of here for medical appointments, it's practically impossible. We have to do fundraising at times to get our seniors out here when the need arises.
We deserve fair fare. We deserve fair airfare out of Labrador West. I looked a couple of weeks ago, a one-way ticket to St. John's was going to cost me $953 one way for one person. That's just highway robbery.
We're people, we're regular people who live here, and we're being charged these prices and one airline here. So the government needs to pick it apart and find a solution.
Well, a quick update on the West White Rose project. It's now at the flooding stage. Construction of the concrete gravity structure is finished. Synovus says work to start filling the graving dock with water began on Sunday. Eventually, they'll remove the retaining wall, keeping the water in, and float the concrete base out to the oil field. That's expected to happen sometime next year. Well, the annual Mardi Gras party took place on George Street over the weekend, and a fierce costume competition took place on stage. St. John's Morning Show host Jen White spoke with the winner and the runner-up in studio.
How does it feel to be the winner of the costume contest?
Every time you go on George Street, it's just magical, I guess you could say, right? Just the amount of people that applause you, I guess, for what you've done, right? It's there's no other feeling. It's quite unique, actually.
What about yourself, Laura? What was it like?
Same thing, very unique experience. It's just nice to go down and, I mean, I do cosplay as does Hamilton, and it's just a great feeling to have people come up to you with a big smile on their face and ask for a picture.
Tell us a little bit about your costume. Who were you?
Lilith is from a video game series called Diablo, and this is the 4th iteration of the video game. And Lilith is the antagonist in this particular video game. And I came across her about a couple of years ago, and I was very intrigued about this character. Now, within the context of the game, she's 10 feet tall. I said to myself, now that's a challenge. Mm-hmm. I've got to see if I can do this, see if I can pull it off. So I made myself 7 foot with the costume. So I had to put a stealth on. Very difficult walking on a cobblestone road on George Street. I sewed myself a girdle, cinched myself into that as tight as I could. For all the women that wear them, my hats are off to you. I can guarantee. It's a nightmare.
Laura, what about your costume? Can you tell us about it?
My sister, she just dubbed me Battle Bambi. And I'm like, I guess we're going with it. This is what it is. So I ended up making some overskirts. I had the big horns, made them out of an Amazon box. It was all very last minute, which I usually am. But it was done in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Look at this. My goodness, some wintry weather to start the day on the province's west coast. Donnie O'Keefe posted this video from Maple Valley Road in Corner Brook this morning. An SUV seen sliding back down over the hill. Wow, but that driver wasn't the only one. A few people found it pretty slippery this morning. Others also struggled with the slippery street. Fortunately, no one was hurt. Looks like it's definitely time to book those winter tires, get that appointment booked. Sure, and speaking of, you're allowed to put those studded tires on your car in just a few days from now. That's allowed as of November 1st.
Hi, I'm Rick Mercer with the offer of a lifetime and a very big ask. In less than a year, the 2025 Canada Games are coming to Newfoundland and Labrador, and that means we've got company coming, big time. The numbers are mind-boggling. This coming August, 25,000 people from all across Canada are going to descend on this province for the Games, and every single one of them can't wait to get here. They've heard good things, so we need to ensure they have the time of their life, the games of their life. As a province, we've got to knock this one out of the park. So here's the ask. We need you to represent Team Newfoundland and Labrador at the Games. We need 5,000 volunteers, all ages, all skills. You would not believe the jobs that need to be filled, the experience you will get, the friends you will make. To make these games work, there are so many moving pieces, but the most important piece, the final piece, the mission-critical piece is you. Visit the website, join the team.
A recent event in Grates Cove brought the town's residents together to preserve photos and reminisce about days gone by at a scanning party. Here now's Jessica Singer swung by.
So this is a scanning party that it's Heritage NL does, and I'm not with Heritage NL, but over the years have done some work with Dale Jarvis, their executive director, and we were chatting about a year ago about different ways that Heritage NL could use heritage assets as a sort of as a starting point for economic development activities. And I invited him to come down to talk to the folks here in Grates Cove, and we met with the Heritage Committee, and one thing as part of the conversation, he said, well, you know, so one easy way to start is to do a scanning party, which is where community members come together and bring photos and other things that then can be scanned and digitized and then made available for the whole community, but also other, you know, historians, et cetera, and it's all archived at the MUN archives, so it's now available. But as you can kind of see from this event, it's, you know, there's the scanning itself, but there's also just the gathering of folks and talking. So we have a table over here with old census and photos that people are chatting about. We have a DVD over here with old home, you know, movies from 1955, and you know, folks are chatting about what's going on in Grates Cove, what has been. So that's, you know, that's what we're at this afternoon.
You're digitizing these today?
Yeah. I actually had a lot more stuff, but I don't live out here. And I just wish I had brought more, because I do got another, like some old pictures, and I even got some old receipts in that from when they purchased stuff and everything. It was really cool how cheap stuff was and everything, but yeah, so.
Why digitize these pictures?
Well, the history, I love looking up stuff myself, and I know some, you know, down the road, other people would love to look it up too.
This was a whole school here, the old United School.
Did you go to school there?
Yeah, I started at kindergarten to grade 6th year.
How do you feel when you look at a picture of that? Where you went to kindergarten, you say you've been here for 72 years. How do you feel looking at that picture?
Nice building. Never liked school.
You don't want to go back?
No.
He does not want to go back here.
I wasn't in school, but I did graduate from school, and I went on to trade school and different things, but school wasn't my... All I wanted to do was fish. When I was 17-year-old, I had my own boat. I was the captain, skipper of my own boat and everything. And from that, right up until 2 years ago, that's when I finished.
What do you love about them?
No, it just brings back memories, right? And that's what it's all. Like I told my wife, I said, I can get up and go out in the boat and just anchor the boat and go to sleep all day, but I like that well on the water, right? And I do. I really do.
It so reminds you of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time on the water in my life, I tell you.
Well, temperatures today have certainly dropped, seeing some snow for the first time for some parts of the province as well today, thanks to an area of low pressure. We've got much colder air filtering down, and will continue to do so as we head through the next at least couple of days. We can see some flurries already happening or continuing to happen on the west coast, and some more showers happening to the east. That is going to continue. I'll break it all down for you coming up in a few minutes.
Her lifelong passion for Inuit art and craft has inspired many. Watch Nellie Winter's Legacy, Sunday at 11:30 and Monday at 7.
Ashley, I can't believe some places got snow. That the video from the west coast of the cars sliding down the hill that we showed a little bit earlier. I guess winter is here.
It's here.
Almost.
For parts of the province, it certainly is. And the next couple of days are going to be a little wintry as well. But today was the first taste of snow for some people and dogs. Take a look at this cutie. This is Finley enjoying his first snowfall in Massey Drive. Now, they also gave me this adorable video. I'm just going to share it with you. This is how excited 7-month-old, he's a Cavapoo. I could watch this video over and over again, how excited he is of that snow. I know not everybody's excited to see the snow today, but he certainly was. Seriously, I could play that over and over again. Thank you so much for that photo. And so let's talk about what's happening today. So we've got an area of low pressure to the south, a ridge of high pressure to the west. It is filtering in some cold air, or we are starting to see some cold air. So we've got this northerly flow around the area of high pressure. And this cold air in the upper atmosphere is a perfect recipe for what we're seeing today, which is periods of some wet snow. We're seeing some showers depending on the temperature further east. And some of those showers have some grapple in there as well. Yes, we're going to start talking about that word, and that will be the story tomorrow as well. But take a look at our temperatures this afternoon. 3 degrees for Nain. You head towards really anywhere along the coast between 1 to 3 or 4 degrees. A little cooler to the west, and the island generally looking at temperatures anywhere from about 4 to 10 degrees. And temperatures have certainly dropped down to about +4 in St. John's right now, 1 degree in Corner Brook, and Burgeo is currently sitting at 2 degrees. Temperatures in Lab West around at -3. And they're really going to drop as we head through tonight. So taking a look at this, this is typical when we see this setup to see they're more like onshore flurries, and they look quite convective, but we are seeing those onshore flurries and or showers happening on the west coast, and we've been seeing some periods of that happening in the east as well. And tonight, once we say goodbye to this little section of showers here, in behind that, we should actually see some clearing skies, and tonight will be fairly quiet for the east. That won't be the case, though, for the west. You're still in that onshore flow. You're still looking at the potential for some showers or flurries overnight tonight. And that will be the story for Labrador as well, especially central and coastal areas of Labrador with the potential for some flurries overnight tonight. But temperatures are going to be cold in Lab West. -14 will be your overnight low. We're still minus single digits for Happy Valley, Goose Bay. Head towards the coast, temperatures will be a bit warmer. But again, overall, across the island, temperatures hovering into the minus single digits, and even just hovering around the 0 degree mark. For those of you in the west, overall winds will be generally light, about 5 to 15 kilometers per hour, a little bit more breezy for the big land. Now, into tomorrow, almost exactly the same setup. So we've got that colder air in the upper atmosphere, temperatures at the surface about 3-4 degrees. Again, don't be surprised to see some periods of wet snow potentially, even the potential for some grapple and some showers in the mix as well. But there'll also be some sunny periods in the mix there through the day. Now up across Labrador, generally looking at the chance of some flurries towards the coast through central Labrador. But as the day goes on, it's actually going to turn into a pretty beautiful afternoon. And then we're going to see some snow move in overnight and into early Wednesday. And that will be the beginning of a wintry mix for those of you in Lab West. Our daytime highs tomorrow, again, 4 to 6 degrees in the east. Winds will be out of the north, around 20 kilometers per hour. You should still see some sunny mix, but overall unsettled. Same thing through central, 4 to 6 degrees. As you head towards the west coast, those temperatures will be a tad cooler, anywhere from 2 to 6. Winds again out of the northwest, around 15 to 20 kilometers per hour. And again, Expect snow, especially in those upper levels and along the Long Range Mountains. Northern Peninsula, some showers in the mix there as well. Your temperatures just a tad warmer. Northwesterlies towards the coast will be gusting anywhere from 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. That's all along the coast, but some sunshine in the mix there. Like I said, late day, Happy Valley Goose Bay will hover around 0 degrees and about -4 in Lab City. The long range forecast coming up a little later.
Well, it's the last week of Mi'kmaq History Month, and this year CBC Atlantic teamed up to produce a series called Nourish, How Elders Feed Our Souls. And we've been asking people to write a love letter to an elder in their lives. Lily Beth Fisher is a 15-year-old high school student from Glooscap First Nation in Nova Scotia. She wrote a letter to her great-great-uncle Basil Peters.
Dear great-great-uncle Basil Peters, I was a young girl when you moved onto the spirit world, and although I don't remember you well, your spirit and memory feels like I've known you forever. I do remember you called me Bogosi, which means water lily in Mi'kmaq. I remember your long silver hair, which you would always have back in a braid. You always wore it with such pride. I remember being at your house in Millbrook, swelling all the sacred medicines, mostly sweetgrass and sage. You had a lot of it in your home, along with your baskets and drums. You were a gifted basket weaver. My family still has your baskets today. I remember seeing them at your shop, the Glooscap Trading Post in Millbrook. Seeing the colorful skirts, beads, shirts, gems, beaded jewelry, wooden sculptures, moccasins, and crafts. That memory will always live with me. Mi'kmaq artist Gerald Glode was one of your basket weaving students. He is a family friend and he had many stories of you. You told him about the stories of your father, Chief Lewis Peters of Bear River, how you would go trapping, fishing, and hunting with him and his brother, canoeing on the turnpike to Kijimakujik. You told him legends, in which he has told me. You said your biggest regret is that you didn't have children of your own. So, you taught your nieces, nephews, great-nieces and nephews, and great-great-nieces and nephews. You were always so proud of our language, culture, and heritage, speaking our language to community members and children. Many family members, friends, and even strangers speak of you. They tell me about your kindness, wisdom, humor, creativity, and skills. You're many things: a teacher, a storyteller, an artist, a student, a business owner. But most of all, you are a friendly soul who helped anyone in need, family or not. I like learning about you through the stories I hear. I like the fact that the piano you used to play is now in the Glooscap Chapel. Or how you went to the National Powwow with my grandmother, your niece, in Toronto. She said you enjoyed it there. Nervous, but you loved it. I hope you are well in the spirit world, there with your sisters, brothers, nieces, nephews, and your mother and father. We miss you dearly every day. Your spirit lives in our communities, your baskets, your shops, your art, and your stories. It lives on in anyone who had the honor to meet you and see your warm, friendly smile. I hope to be like you, to have the same impact you had on Mi'kmaq communities and Nova Scotia, to be a friend to all and share my stories. Yes, I live.
Because we're kindred spirits, you know. Both of our nations are shaped by the sea.
Shaped by the sea and each other, a musical journey through the long and storied history between this province and Portugal. We'll hear about the White Fleet Suite project being staged next month in St. John's. That's coming up.
Oh, salty sea, how much of your salt?
The historical ties between this province and Portugal will be celebrated in music, poetry, and storytelling on stage at the Arts and Culture Centre in St. John's next month. The White Fleet Suite project was created by musician Pamela Morgan. She and musical director Dwayne Andrews tells us what the show is all about.
This is a remount of a show that we premiered here at this time last year, and it is a musical depiction of the history of the Portuguese in Newfoundland, the waterfront, the sailors, and you know, and an imagination of what they had endured. Also, our own fisher people who were out in their dories hand-lining cod. So it's just a celebration of the human connection through work, through the fishery, and through the social connections and the musical connections when they were ashore down on the waterfront in St. John's.
Dwayne, can you talk a bit about your role in this, how you got involved with it, and what you do here?
So my involvement, I mean, it all started with, you know, even just a simple email from Pamela Morgan gets me excited. So I opened this one up and, you know, she just starts describing, you know, the concept, you know, and her idea. And I mean, it all sounds totally fantastic. And I mean, and I wasn't in town, you know, because I grew up in Carbonear, where I was born. And so I kind of missed the actual era, but I mean, one incredible musician is Art Stoyles, who I did have the good fortune of being able to spend some time with and learn some music from him. And it was almost through him that I kind of, you know, got this affection for that whole time, and especially the music. So then, you know, when Pamela sends a note saying, you know, you're interested in exploring, you know, some of this music, I jumped on board immediately.
Pamela, what drew you to this part of Newfoundland's history? How did this all come about?
Well, you know, I grew up in Grand Falls and I had no sort of experience with the Portuguese before I came to St. John's. But when I came to St. John's as a teenager to work in theatre, I couldn't believe my eyes. I was just totally fascinated with the waterfront, because in those days it was purely like international. There were sailors from everywhere. And of course you could access the waterfront and you could get on the boats and you could, you know, have a few drinks and you could listen to the music and you could watch the soccer and all that kind of stuff. And then when I joined Figgy Duff, Art Stoyles, as Dwayne mentioned, he was the first accordion player in Figgy Duff. So I played with him, you know, and toured with him for years. And Art knew more Portuguese tunes than he knew Newfoundland ones because he grew up on the waterfront. And then Teófilo Sequeira, he was here around that time as a student. His father moved from Portugal to Lab City to work in the mines, and then Teo came to go to MUN, and we became great friends. And so he would bring me on the boats and translate and, you know, and elicit songs from people and all of that. And so, you know, that was kind of an immersion. Then over the years, I visited Teo in Portugal, and I always had a fascination for the land and the music, because we're kindred spirits, you know. Both of our nations are shaped by the sea and fishery, and so we have that connection, and I just thought it was time to explore it a bit more. One of the most special things about this whole journey for me was the opportunity to interview dorymen in Portugal who had been to Newfoundland and the stories they told. It was absolutely fascinating, and in fact one of them guested on one of our shows when we brought it to Portugal. And also the poetry of Agnes Walsh, which constitutes a large part of the content in the show. She took a lot of the stories that were represented in various accounts of the White Fleet here, and her own experience and her own poetry, which was, and that's why I got her to do it, because she's had an interest in it for decades, as have I. And over the years she's written poetry about it, but I commissioned her to write specifically for this. And she took a lot of those stories that came from the Portuguese dorymen, as well as from what we read in books, and turned it into beautiful poetry. And so there's some of that is recited, and some of it is used as lyrics in some of the songs. So the stories that we found from people, for me, is what makes the content really beautiful.
The actual stories behind the stories, I guess you could say. Like you'll come to the show and you'll hear, you know, maybe it's a beautiful poem that, you know, describes you know, being lost on the water in the fog and like a piece of bread floating on the water, and that's how you found your way home, was realizing, oh, you know, the mothership is over that way, you know, whereas there's a good chance that person would have perished. That's an actual story that, you know, was told and you know, put into the show. But, you know, so I guess just maybe keeping that in mind, that this all is actually, you know, history, and it happened.
The visuals also, we dug deep for those. Jean-Pierre Andreu gave us full access to his extensive collection, as well as Rui Bela in Portugal. So we have visuals, stills and moving pictures from both sides of the Atlantic, and that is also a feast for the eyes.
Oh yeah, I just got to echo that as well. Because, I mean, I remember when we were in Portugal, and like we're doing one of the shows, and for us performing, you know, we're on stage and it's behind us, so, you know, we don't actually get to experience it in the show, but it's just irresistible sometimes, and I'll just look back and have a little glimpse. And I remember one time over there, it was like a shot of, I think it was St. John's Harbour back in, you know, the old days, and being over there with, you know, just, I guess, the whole, but it's all just so beautiful as well. So there's an immediate kind of quality that you get, but then that's, I guess, amplified by, you know, once you start to realize, you know, this is actually part of history and you know, what we lived.
The white waves rolling over me.
Well, a local business owner and New Canadian is reacting to the federal cut to immigration announced last week. Ottawa is cutting the number of new permanent residents in the country by 90,000 next year, and even more in the following years. Constanza Safatle is originally from Chile. She was a commercial lawyer in her home country, but now runs Newborn Lander, a baby accessory business. She believes the immigration system does need refining.
I empathize a lot, and I want to be really clear about that, because I understand how Canadians can feel. You know, it's disappointing that it is an initiative without a plan, I feel, without an infrastructure. So I understand when people feel angry, but I will call for a reflection to think, what is the real problem? Because I feel like that too. I feel that Canada is my home. So that's why I say I feel double pain. Mm-hmm. From one side, I see that now the many news and relating, oh, this is immigrants, and create all these problems that Canada have today. And that is not true. On the other side, I feel angry too, because, well, where is the plan? Where was implementation?
Still on this topic, fewer international students will be attending Canadian post-secondary schools due to a series of government policy changes. Many institutions have expressed concerns about those decisions. And as the CBC's Sarah Levitt reports, they say they're now starting to feel the effects.
These prospective students are getting a chance to see what Montreal's Concordia University is all about, but the school says there are fewer of them.
We have seen a decline in our open house pre-registration numbers.
And the school says it's only expected to get worse. Last week, the federal government announced it's cutting back on immigration, reducing the number of new permanent residents by more than 20% next year. That's on top of a reduction in international student permits.
There's been a whole series of announcements that have done real damage to the Canada brand.
Seneca Polytechnic says it's temporarily closing its Markham, Ontario campus as a result.
It didn't make much sense to continue to run a campus that was losing enrollment. Look, we've got to get our house in order in Canada. Right now, the word out there in the world is that Canada doesn't want international students.
It has been a tough year.
In Montreal, both Concordia and McGill University have also been forced to hike tuition for out-of-province and foreign students, a move Quebec says is meant to protect the French language.
The questions are still coming in from students who have concerns about what that all means, and we don't necessarily have all of the answers yet.
The federal government argues the immigration cuts are meant to correct the balance after admitting a record number of temporary workers after the pandemic. But the head of an organization promoting international studies in Canada says the decision is short-sighted.
These are global talent that have chosen Canada as their place for learning and professional growth, who emerge from our institutions with Canadian credentials, who speak one, if not both, official languages, and have a tremendous amount of potential to contribute.
Now that potential talent, she says, may go elsewhere. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
org.
Well, earlier in the show, we reported on the impact the rising cost of living is having on food banks across the country. And rising prices affect not just the essentials, but also Halloween candy. The cost of ingredients for chocolate bars and other treats is way up. And as Brittany Henriquez reports, that's spooking many.
Oh, sure, they're Smarties. Here you go. Boy. I asked people how much they think I paid for a box of 50 chocolates. How much do you think this cost?
$15? $8.95. $12.99.
$11.
$12.99.
Oh, I was so close.
Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy.
The price may feel crazy, but this expert says when you factor in the cost to make Halloween treats nowadays, it makes sense.
Cocoa prices have actually exploded compared to last year's Halloween. It's up 120%. And sugar prices are up 24% since May. And so when input costs go up, typically manufacturers tend to really make some adjustments around packaging and quantities.
Experts say you might not have noticed a big hike in prices for some candies, but you're sure getting a lot less than you used to.
The potato chips are the worst. Cereal. You open it up, it's half air.
Shrinkflation is hitting Halloween candies at 2 levels. One, candies are smaller, so if you went out and bought some chocolate bars, you've noticed that chocolate bars are on average about 10 grams versus 12, 13, 15 grams before. And also you're getting fewer items per box or per bag.
Candy givers are facing the challenge of either giving less to trick-or-treaters or paying more. Pat Petraccione gives out treats at his haunted house. This year, he says he spent $400 on candy, the most he's had to pay in 30 years. Experts worry these higher prices could deter people from giving away treats altogether, or at best force them to rethink what they hand out to trick-or-treaters.
I think the kinds of candy may change. You know, there's cheaper candy, and the people are going to the dollar stores to get candy as well, so that's also.
But I think if the manufacturers see a lot of pushback on this, on the box of 50, for example, next year they can't make it much smaller because at a certain point you're selling wrappers.
And if you are giving out treats and haven't bought your candy yet, experts say do it as soon as possible because they believe prices will get even higher closer to Halloween. Brittany Enriquez, CBC News, Montreal.
Have you gotten your Halloween candy yet?
I've had it for a while.
Oh, have you?
I had to hide it though, so I don't open it up.
Yeah, I need to wait till the last minute or else I'm gonna munch on that.
It's out of sight, out of mind. So
Do you get very many kids?
Apparently, yeah, lots of kids, new neighborhood, so we'll see what happens. But we'll see what happens. We got lots of chocolate, so it's all good.
Good. Okay, so, and Halloween is this week. So we're looking at the long range forecast, and that includes Halloween night.
It sure does.
How are things looking for the kiddies?
A little chilly. We've been talking about some cool air. You know, it has been chilly, but let's take a look at what's going on. So over the next couple of days, things are going to get unsettled, or continue to be unsettled, rather. Certainly as we head into Wednesday, especially up across Labrador. So some unsettled weather expected to move in by Wednesday morning. This will likely start as snow. We could see a wintry mix into the afternoon as this changes over to rain and your temperatures warm up on Wednesday. Now, as far as the island goes, for the most part, a fairly quiet day. Unsettled to start, though, the chance of some showers, and then just cloudy periods as the day goes on. But then we await our the next weather maker to move in. So overall, daytime highs up across Labrador will be sitting somewhere between 2 to 5 degrees on Wednesday. Again, this temperature of 5 degrees will be later in the day, and then you'll see that transition to rain. Again, you may see the risk of some freezing rain during that transition, so keep an eye on the forecast if you have any travel plans. But for the island, again, showers in the morning, but the afternoon looks pretty decent. Just some clouds in the sky, and we're looking at temperatures between 3 and 6 degrees as your daytime highs. Now, as we get into Thursday, unsettled up across Labrador, the chance of showers at least through the first part of the day, then some cold air in behind that, so temperatures will cool down. And then across the island, we do have a southerly flow, at least to start the day again. So we are looking at some rain possible through the first part of the day and then into the afternoon and evening, likely lingering for the west coast. But temperatures are going to warm up a little bit, at least through the day, 8 to 10 degrees, 11 degrees, but temperatures will drop by the time you head out the door to trick or treat. And then, like I said, dropping that temperature dropping up across Labrador, so down to -1 in the afternoon, but hanging on to some of that mild air towards the coast. 10 degrees will be your afternoon high for Cartwright. Long range forecast, we will see a warm up, and that will be Friday, back up to the double digits. A brief warm up though. Temperatures will head back down to the single digits by the time we get into Saturday. Overall unsettled Friday and Saturday with some rain in the mix there. Now for central Newfoundland, you are also looking at a bit of a warm up, 10 to 13 degrees by the time we get into Saturday, 2 degrees, and the potential for some snow in the mix there, wet snow. Same thing for western Newfoundland. So big roller coaster ride for you as far as those temperatures go, down to 2 degrees by the time we get into Saturday. Our temperatures up across eastern Labrador will bump up a little bit on Thursday, but then back down to 0 or +1 with some flurries both Friday and Saturday, maybe even some light snow on Friday. And we are looking at temperatures cooling for Labrador, our Lab West rather. Our photo of the day is Fortune Harbor. Great shot here. Take a look at this. Double rainbow.
Another rainbow.
We have been seeing so many rainbows. Yesterday, there were a number of rainbows as well. But yeah, this shot, double rainbow. You see it there? In the Yeah, Brian shared this shot with us. Thank you for that. And if you have any weather photos that you'd like to share with us, you can do that by sending them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, that is just beautiful. Love seeing those double. Was the last one we had last week, was that a double rainbow too?
Double rainbows everywhere.
All right, I love it. Okay, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your Monday evening with us. Hope you can join us again tomorrow.
Good night.